Okay. Yeah, so my name's Tommy Morrisroe. I am an active travel officer at Transport for Greater Manchester. And I just want to talk to you about our new funding opportunity called Wheels and Walks. So hopefully that's come up on the screen for you. So just before I get into what it is, you can see there on the screen, there's a website there where we've got our information on that I'll be presenting to you. But also on there, you'll find the application form, guidance, and a few more FAQs as well. And then we've got the email address there. So if there is anything that you want to contact me about, you can contact me directly via that email address. So Wheels and Walks is our new funding opportunity for community groups. So what is it? Effectively it's a support program for new or existing walking, wheeling and cycling groups across Greater Manchester, with an aim to enable the sustained delivery of their activity. So you can see that there's two bits there that are underlined, and they're the kind of key aspects of the programme. Firstly, we want to support grassroots organisations and groups who want to start or continue delivering walking, wheeling or cycling activity that helps the public get out and about. And I'll go through kind of what that support looks like in more detail. But I suppose the aim of the programme, the aim of the fund that we're offering as well, is that the activity can be sustained. So we're trying to offer a leg up, if you'd like, to that activity so it can get going, or invest in it, and then it can continue to support the people who want to walk, wheel or cycle. Okay, so this is in a nutshell how it will look and kind of the steps and stages within the programme. So there is an application window, and I'll get into the details of that in a little bit. But for those groups who are successful in applying, they can receive a grant fund of up to £5,000. So this grant funding, the organisations and groups can spend it on aspects that will help the delivery of that activity. So, for instance, if it's any training that they require, any equipment that they need. So if it's bicycles, for example, or if it's walking boots or coats, aspects like that. Training can include like walk leader training or any like cycle training for the volunteers that might run them or the staff that might deliver the programme, or training for maybe the people who they're wanting to get cycling. So there are things like that that they can spend the money on. There is an indicative list online of what the money can be spent on, but it's worth just pointing out at this point in time, we won't. We're not looking for groups that will spend that money on kind of project management costs because of the limited amount of funding that we've got. So I just thought it was worth highlighting that as well. The other support that we want to offer is about working with the groups really closely. So I've just mentioned the funding, and obviously that's really transactional, but we want to do more than that. We want it not to be transactional. We want to build relationships with these groups and support them in becoming sustainable in their activity and delivering it. So other things that we can offer and support them are kind of wider aspects of how to sustain the group and the activity. So we've put like training development opportunities. So for example, if they don't know about any of the compliance side of delivering an activity, that's for us to help them with that. And maybe financial management is something that they're not too sure about. Again, that's something that we'll be able to support them with that. So our aim is that when our support comes to an end, they are confident and capable to continue delivering that activity. And I suppose the final bit of the support that we'd like to kind of instigate is like networking and facilitation of knowledge sharing across groups. And um, and we know of a lot of different organisations and contacts that might be doing different things, similar things across Greater Manchester. And there's that connectivity that might be missing where they can share experience and share kind of best practice and understanding of what they can do, what groups can do to continue delivery of their activity. So that's what our support would look like. So that's from us. From the groups themselves, what we're asking for is that they've got a plan to sustain their activity. So in the application form, there are 4 questions that we're going to score, and the one that scored the highest is about how that group will sustain the delivery of their activity beyond our funding. So that's really important to us. What we don't want is just the funding to be provided and then the activity to stop as soon as the funding stops as well. So it's vital that we understand how the group are going to plan to continue delivering our activity afterwards. We're also looking for groups that want to work with us and it be a kind of reciprocal relationship rather than a transactional one. So any groups that apply, we'd really like them to be able and willing to absorb as much as possible and be connected to us as much as possible to really maximise what we can offer and what we can provide. And then it's a case of delivering what they've said they'd do. So we're looking kind of a 6-month period where, for example, if they need to train up staff or volunteers or even some of the residents maybe, there's time to do that, time to get everything in place so that they can start their activity being delivered. And then when the activity is being delivered, what we would ask is that there is a bit of reporting going on from that. So we would work directly with obviously the people that are delivering it, the group, and understand from their perspective how it's going. But also we'd like to hear from the people who are walking, who are wheeling and cycling within that activity. Because I appreciate we are Transport for Greater Manchester, and this isn't directly about active travel, but we appreciate that by providing opportunities, supporting opportunities across Greater Manchester for people to walk, wheel and cycle, this will have a positive impact on their choices towards active travel. So I suppose that's the underlying theme to all this, is that it's behind that behaviour change model and us trying to support kind of, that grassroots and the initiation of walking, wheeling and cycling in Greater Manchester. Okay, so who's eligible? We've got a list of groups that are eligible. So we do want to work with a variety of different groups, absolutely. And we're looking for kind of, the grassroots organisations, charities, community interest companies, health providers, and definitely education providers as well. Because we appreciate that the more we can diversify who we're supporting, the better the impact that we'll have within Greater Manchester. So again, the eligibility is available online on the link at the beginning of the presentation. And then just to kind of reiterate some of the things that we would expect from the group if they are successful, and as part of kind of their application, is that the activity must be walking, wheeling or cycling. Now we don't expect the group or organisation to just be about that. Obviously there's a lot of really good organisations that do a lot of work that isn't walking, wheeling or cycling. But for example, if they wanted to start a walking group, then that is fantastic. but we wouldn't allow the funding that we've got to be spent on the other activities that aren't associated with walking, wheeling or cycling. Yeah, the activity must be delivered in Greater Manchester and support our key audiences. We appreciate that there's a lot of rural locations in Greater Manchester, and sometimes it's easy to go outside of Greater Manchester within that activity, and that's absolutely fine. What we wouldn't allow in the application if there's a constant delivery of activity outside of Greater Manchester. So just be mindful of that. I've already talked about the plan to sustain the delivery of activity and how it will be executed. And if people do have questions about that or need a bit more support on that, there isn't too much time left in the application deadline, but I am more than happy to try and work with groups and organisations to try and get that plan in place for them before the application deadline. I've already mentioned about the monitoring and evaluation. We will provide this though, so there's no need to kind of think about that from yourselves. That will come from us, and we'll provide all the resources so we can get the right amount of information out and determine how successful this has been. And a bit about insurance, risk assessment, safeguarding. We do expect you to have that in place for when the activity is delivered, but we appreciate that this might require some of the funding to support that to be established in the first instance. But we do expect that of you. And then the final bit is just obviously about spending the money on what was intended for and providing us with receipts when available. Okay, so I suppose the biggest bit is that the applications are live. The deadline is the 17th of March. I appreciate that is not too far away. The following Monday. The applications did open 4 weeks ago. You probably might see on the right-hand side, it says phase 1 application deadline. So one thing to take away is that we are running 3 separate phases for this fund. So this is the first phase. There will be a second opportunity to apply. It won't be until around September. And then there will be a third phase as well, which will be March next year, so in 12 months' time. So important that you understand that. So if you miss this deadline or you're not successful, then there are other opportunities to apply for it. It's also worth me pointing out as well that for this deadline and this kind of round, we're only going to be working with around 10 groups at this point in time. But for September, we're going to double that to 20. So there'll be more opportunity, I suppose, to get involved. Also in September as well, we're going to open up a small grants fund. Now, this might be better placed for some organisations or groups who just want maybe a little bit more of a transactional relationship and just need maybe some small bits and small equipment to enable that delivery of activity. We haven't got too much about what the parameters will be for that, but this will be circulated in time. So we will share this information once we've determined it.